Okay, hello everyone, and welcome to today's town hall. I feel like we need to start taking requests for our intro music. If you've got any ideas, drop them in the chat. We're trying to keep it fresh and bring some energy to the meeting with our intro. So thank you everyone for joining our bi-weekly town hall. As always, we are live streaming and recording. So if you get disconnected at any point, head on over to youtube.com/@hospitable and you can continue to watch there. As always, we're going to kick off with some company and product updates from ourselves, and then we'll have some time for some audience Q&A at the end. If you have any questions throughout the session, please don't forget to type your questions in the Q&A, not in the chat, or we might not manage to see them, and we'll make sure to try and get to them throughout the session as well. So I'm going to briefly hand over to PC, and then we'll get started. PC.
And I'm muted. Hello everybody, thank you so very much for attending again one new town hall, and we're starting immediately by introducing the freshest, newest member of our team. His name is Sani, and is originally based in London. He's joining our senior engineering team, front end, especially with our tractor team that we're going to be talking about. So Sani, go now. It's time for being video on. And basically share if you were to introduce yourself with about 300 of our closest customers right now. Stani, where are you?
Hi, hello everybody. Good to meet you. Thank you, PC. Did you say where am I or how am I?
What are you going to be doing at Hospitable?
Yeah, so it's an honor to join Hospitable, and I'm here to build amazing products that you're going to be using. So some I can't say, obviously, but a lot of amazing things that are going to help you really buy back your time and help you really expand with the marketplace and also many other amazing things that we're working on. So yeah, hopefully we'll be using some of the things I'll be making.
Fantastic. You're going to be joining the Direct and Trust Tech team. Where you have taken the product test. I think you passed it with flying colors. I believe it was yesterday or was it Monday? I don't remember. That was okay, yesterday. And what's going to be your first project? Actually, what is the first thing that you're going to be working on? Because you say we don't share, etc. We're not exactly this kind of a company, unless you're working on something immensely strategic, which maybe is the case. But...
No, absolutely. So, well, apart from just some of the things that I'm excited to work on, I'm going to be working on is a new experience for hosts to be able to really book cleaners and have an amazing experience, both for the cleaners and the hosts to help you manage that experience. So, some really cool stuff, really.
Some really good stuff that we're going to talk about in the next town hall when we're ready to be showing the pixels so that Stani would have prepared. Thank you so very much, Stani. So there will be another opportunity to meet you in coming weeks for sure. So if you are not keeping tabs, we're now a team of 115 people, and this is actually the breakdown. And you can see the support organization altogether is just about under 50% of the team. Engineers and product managers are basically about a bit more than a quarter. And then the rest of sales and marketing composed what I would call the bigger quarter of the company. The number is kind of staying pretty stable, actually, over time, completely disconnected from the reality of the growth of a business. Basically, we are gaining from some productivity gains left and right. Now, I'm going to start with a subject that probably is going to make me feel a little bit more vulnerable. But I wanted to spend a few minutes on talking about direct booking, especially on the recent issues that have been impacting our direct premium customers, hosts, and guests. So if you had been working at Hospitable like Sani just started, you probably hear me say sometimes those two different things that may sound in contradiction with one another. The product is money, and trust is actually the product that we're building. That's what the effort should be. The product is money, that's the product that we deliver, that's the outcome that we want to be delivering for you, our customers. That means we are unique in our ability compared to our competitors, for example, to be involved in the flow of funds. For example, when we're acting as a merchant of record, but also facilitating transactions all over the place. The ones that you heard about recently were upsells, were owner payouts, or even recently trip insurance. I'm going to talk a bit about that later. The other part, trust in the product, is really what we need to instill in the product whenever we are doing something of any kind of magnitude. We need to continuously build that trust. Without that, we know we're bound to fail. There is no money for anybody if we don't actually build that and bake it in. It turns out that being almost right with money is being entirely wrong, just the same. So while it's not comfortable, I wanted to be lifting the veil about what occurred at Hospitable in the past 3 weeks. If you have been impacted, you will know. And what we've done about it to remedy the situation as we are now been stabilizing the situation. And I think we're going to talk a little bit more about what we're committing to changing as a company moving forward, because we're learning quite a few lessons. So first of all, we started to support direct back in 2021. And we progressively built a full booking engine that is actually built on real world experiences. That means alterations, and I'm always so surprised about how complex this part of a product is. It's probably one of the most complex parts of any product in the space, and that means the day changing, the pricing changing, the guest changing, etc. and the nights. That is the cancellations, that is the payout, timing, etc. Now, over the last year, there has been a strong inflation of things that we're doing as part of a financial role, as part of a financial infrastructure. That means upsells, owner payouts, security deposits, and you will hear more actually about more parts of the product, for example, even some that Sunny is going to be working on. At the same time, we've really had a big goal on our engineering organization, and from an engineering standpoint, to build a financial foundation that can actually allow us to be an international merchant of record, and that is beyond US, UK, and Australia, but expanding into Canada and Europe, which are very popular user requests. And we would love to be expanding our financial offerings to those jurisdictions. But in doing so, we know we also have to be dealing with more complex tax coverage across the board with multiple levels of jurisdictions, not just talking about Canada and Europe, but even to our customers in the United States. And of course, we want to have some constant behavior across all those different products instead of having to rebuild the logic every single time. We do not want to have an owner payout service, a security deposit service, an upsell service. That's a lot of code. That's a lot harder to maintain. So we wanted to have a consolidated financial service that basically orchestrates the flow of funds across our entire infrastructure. And historically, direct bookings, so the new parts, owner payouts, etc., have been built on this new financial service and still are, and there has been no challenge there. But the problem, or rather historically, direct bookings was working on another part of our infrastructure, another part of our product. And so we wanted to migrate everything along to benefit from the latest development that those other categories of product we've been building for. And it created a situation where we've been now it created a situation where we were fixing problems, for example, with one part of the product, but we needed to fix that as well with direct. So that basically was a bit of a challenging situation with more time spent on just keeping things stable. So we have been creating this unified financial service, and we performed a migration about 3 weeks ago. That was a very difficult time. It took us a little bit of time. If you can move over to the next slide, Gabby. We needed to migrate those direct bookings so that they could now exist in this new financial service. And we made mistakes in this migration, and we found multiple issues, and many of them were involving money. So in particular, we had very confusing situation where some customers would have been paid out, let's call it more than once, which is not exactly the correct number of that people should be paid out for a reservation, for example. That means we paid you again for a reservation that were already paid. That's duplicate payouts. It's really bad. It happened to other companies in the space, to be frank. So we're taking the lesson earlier. Even if that ended up being corrected later, that created obviously a lot of confusion. Is this correct? What is happening? Why is Hospitable pulling back funds? Have I been paid out actually? And that's basically a lot of stress that, of course, we've been causing, and I'm very sorry for that on behalf of the entire Hospitable team and myself. That's actually just one of the many issues that have been occurring in the past few weeks across our Trust Tech team. And actually, it took us quite a lot of time to properly assess the multiple sources, the scope, and the impact of those issues. Ultimately, once we understood, we've decided earlier this week to roll back this migration, which we believe is the responsible decision after a failed migration. Now, to translate that in friendlier customer terms, that means this financial service is still live for upsells and other parts of the product, and has been where it's been working fine. The direct bookings now work on the previous service that's working fine. And that means direct booking operations are now back on stable path. We have been able to restore the reliability first, and then we'll take some time to do the deeper work properly. We were able to do some hard cleanup, especially when it comes to those duplicated payouts. And we're quite grateful that we've been able to retrieve funds, about 98% of what was expected. The reason I'm sharing that is not to pat ourselves on the back, but basically to be transparent that we took this matter pretty seriously and did everything that we could do to unwind this mistake and prevent further impact to be occurring in the future. And the bottom line is now this: we do not expect any negative impact on the direct booking experience overall as a result of this incident. And for the remaining cases, that will be handled individually. So those 2% that will not be able to pull and refund and pull from bank accounts. So on the next slide, basically we've decided to stop the emergency response, and by rolling back, we're able to think a bit about what we wanted to do. We're no longer in emergency response, to be quite clear. We can now go back to first principles. That means we can be explicit and intentional about basically rechecking everything that we thought was true. We're going to take the time to review, improve our customer-facing product so that there's less confusion when something is in motion. And we've learned a lot from that period, from that time. And we're also going to take that opportunity to re-audit all the balance accounts to ensure we can reconcile your bookings and payouts end to end, while redesigning what we can do for this to approach this migration in a better way, so it's safer and more measurable whenever we are deciding to pull the plug again. So that is where we stand. We are going to be shipping something more correct, auditable, predictable across every part of our product that is touching on payments. I just want to add one more slide. So what should I do now? Because that's typically is the kind of message that or questions that we hear whenever we're talking. On the next slide. Most of you should obviously do absolutely nothing. If there is something that's wrong, our support team is obviously remaining absolutely available to understand and investigate problems that may involve money or direct booking issues. However, we have full confidence that this is going to be in the state as it was stable back at the beginning of January, for example. And we'll be escalating any issues that we are having from the time window of the migration to our engineering team so that they can basically consolidate our work and experience on this new financial service. Now, ultimately, we will want to go back to the financial service for a clear reason, not because we're stubborn or because we love to rebuild, but actually because the intention is correct. We want to bring those financial products to a larger audience and be able to have a deeper integration with the entire payment stack. So this is still seen as a critical effort. We have learned a lot in this process. Those lessons are not, will not be forgotten, and we'll be able to ship a better product in coming weeks, coming months. We're not pressed by time. We will take the time to do a quality release that is not having any negative adverse customer impact. that's it for this part on Direct Premium, which you may have seen notice on many media. Now there is something more exciting that we will have to share, and I'm going to let Tim introduce you a new effort to make Hospitable easier to use. Tim, good luck.
Thank you, PC. Yes. Hello, everyone. So, we have added many features over the last few years, but how you navigate between all these features within Hospitable hasn't really kept up. You've probably felt that certain features, settings, or pages exist in places that you wouldn't expect, and that how you navigate around Hospitable relies more on memory than it does intuition, which it can be confusing. It adds cognitive load, but it also creates a little bit of a guessing game sometimes of where does this new feature that just launched actually live. Therefore, as part of our 2026 focus on making Hospitable easier to use, as well as being easier to grow with, we've redesigned how you move throughout the product. So we are releasing a clearer, more intuitive navigation that's organized more around how you actually work. And a real life actual designer has spent a lot of time conducting surveys, running live interviews, usability testing as well to get us to a solution that we think works really well. We have removed a lot of the clutter. There are fewer, more meaningful menu items. And instead of kind of multiple menu layers, we now have clear navigation tabs. And we've also grouped related features and pages together in a much simpler way. So to illustrate an example for you, on the left, we have the current navigation experience specifically for guest experience. You have the primary menu, which has 14 different items. You then have the secondary menu, which has 15 different items. This is a lot. It takes up a lot of room. It can be quite overwhelming. So now on the right, we have the new navigation with just 9 primary menu items that expand into more intuitive subsections. So for guest experience, you've got messaging, AI, guest portal, reviews. And then there's no secondary menu. Instead, we have these navigation tabs. So for messaging, you have custom codes, messaging rules, canned responses, etc. This makes it a lot simpler to follow and to navigate around. But also, and I think you'll enjoy this, removing that secondary menu gives you more space on the page. It makes everything a little bit bigger and a little less crowded. Now, we are aware that change can be scary, maybe even a little frustrating initially. So we've made sure that you can try this out in your own time. You can opt in to this new navigation from tomorrow by clicking on your profile icon in Hospitable and then selecting navigation. That will allow you an early access look at the new navigation just to try it out. You can switch back to the old navigation at any point via that same setting. And then alternatively, today, you can scan the QR code on the screen. You can explore an interactive demo of those new navigation changes, and you can leave feedback for us directly in that demo. And then we will gradually roll this out to everyone once we're confident that it's actually working well for you. That's all from me. Over to Marina to talk about connectivity.
Hello, everyone. So let's get right into it. Let's talk about Vrbo. So last week, we introduced the new Vrbo integration that we were working on. And this week, I want to be focusing on going a little bit deeper into topics where I noticed that there were some questions around. So I want to dive a little bit deeper into our vision for Vrbo. I want to talk a lot about payments, go step by step on it. I know a lot of you are curious about how that's going to work. And then we're going to go into the timeline because we also have updates about where we are in terms of the timeline. So let's start with our vision. Our vision for Vrbo is very simple. We want Vrbo as a first-class channel on the same level as our Airbnb integration. So what does that mean for you? Well, it means that you can use listings management with Vrbo to manage and create all your listings. It means that you can, from within Hospitable, visualize everything about your listing, how it is configured, and make changes without having to go to Vrbo to make those changes. It's also part of our vision to offer very fast and reliable connection for Vrbo. And we know that the current connection does not offer this. However, the new integration that we are currently the current integration that we're doing right now is all about you being able to manage your listings and providing a really fast and reliable connection. So let's dive a little bit more into what are the benefits for you. Once you can manage your listings from Hospitable, the main benefit that you get back is time, because we know that right now it is very, very time consuming to be editing things on one place and then having to log into another platform to make changes all over again. So if you want to change your photos, you have to do it in one platform and then go to another platform. And then if you have many listings, you have to do this over and over again for all the listings that you're updating, which is very time consuming. And also it makes it very prone to mistakes. So something that we notice in the pilot that we're running for Vrbo is that most hosts, they set their Vrbo listings there and they forget about it. So they keep making changes to the platform that is the one that they get the most of their bookings from. And that platform keeps getting better and better at driving bookings. But they forget to make their other platforms just as good as that one. So something we noticed was that once our pilots integrated with us on this new connection, they were able to see that they had photos on Vrbo that were very out of date, and they were able to fix it. Also, they noticed that amenities were very different from one platform to the other. So those are like the benefits of being able to edit everything from one place. Another thing is having listings that perform. Once you make those changes and once it's easy for you and not time consuming to make those changes, you can make your listings perform a lot better on Vrbo. And that means for you, well, it means more money, because once your listings perform better, then you get more bookings. So now that we're talking about money, let's dive into how the payments work for Vrbo. We know there's a lot of changes, so let's go very slow on it so that we can dive very, very deep about how it's going to work. So before the official integration, this is how it looks like for you when a guest makes a booking. They go to Vrbo, they pay, and then Vrbo is going to collect the payment. Vrbo is going to handle tax remittance for you if you're in one of the states where Vrbo remits taxes. Vrbo is going to handle chargeback for you. They're going to take 80% commission of the total. It could be a little bit more or less depending where you are, but we know in the US it's usually about 8%. And then Vrbo pays you out. Let's see now what happens when you migrate to our official integration. So on our official integration, a guest still goes to Vrbo and they make a booking and they don't see any difference in their interface. it's exactly the same experience as they would have on before you integrate. However, there's many differences that happen in the background. So Hospitable is going to be the one processing the payment. So the guest comes in, they make a booking. We are going to receive the booking and process the payment. And when you sign up for onboarding into the Vrbo integration, you're going to give Vrbo a credit card. Vrbo is going to charge their commission to the credit card. It's the same commission that they were charging before. I'm going to show you the breakdown later. Don't worry about it. But then Hospitable is going to pay you out for the booking. So it's a lot of changes, a lot of numbers, a lot of commissions. Let's go into to see the breakdown of how that looks like step by step. So what do the numbers look like without Hospitable? You're paying 5% commission for Vrbo, and you're paying Vrbo a 3% processing fee. So the total that you're paying for Vrbo is 8%. With Hospitable, you're paying the same 5% commission. However, you're paying Hospitable a 3.9 processing fee. And I know some of you are going to be like, wait, so is this 0.9% more? And fair enough that you have this concern. But let me address what that means for you. So on Vrbo, when they process your payment, you get the payment processing, you get the tax remittance, you get the chargeback protection, which we will also offer for you with Hospitable. So you have the same payment processing, we get tax remittance and chargeback protection. But some of the advantages of this integration is that you can manage your listings all from one place. And we just discussed how that is beneficial for you because it saves you a lot of time and it makes your listings perform better. And when we talk about listings performing better, when a guest makes a purchase on Vrbo, we get their credit card. So each upsell that they make on our system is going to be a one-click upsell, which means that this could be potentially the best platform. Vrbo could be the best platform for one-click upsells. So some of you might be asking, can I opt out from this? And why is Hospitable processing my payments? So why is this happening? First of all, it's Vrbo's rules. When we were integrating with Vrbo, one of the requirements that they had is that the platform integrating needs to be responsible for the payments. They will have Vrbo payments coming, and then they will be able to process your payments for you if that's something that you want, and we will be supporting it. So it's not like we're gatekeeping you from it. But we don't know when it's coming, if it's going to be later this year or next year. We don't know exactly when it's coming. The other thing is that we are required to be processing your payment in order to proceed with the integration. There is no way around it. And I think something that's really nice about the way that we're doing it is that most other property management softwares in the market, they took a really easy route. So they had to process the payment, they integrated with Stripe, and they don't really offer tax remittance or chargeback protection to hosts, but not us. We decided to be really unique. And we know a lot of you also use our direct solution, and we decided, why don't we offer that as well for Vrbo, which is something that is not out there in the market. We're the first ones doing it. So we offer you a full payment solution handling taxes and chargeback protection. And I do think that the seamless upsells are really powerful because it means that it becomes really easy for a guest to make upsells from you. So they don't have to input all their credit card information again, all their details again. It's literally one click. If they decide to purchase it, they just click one button and we can process it on the same credit card that they used to make the reservation. So let's dive a little bit into taxes and how we're handling them. So we understand that tax remittance is a concern for our users, and we wanted to provide a better update to where we are in terms of remit parity with Vrbo and what we're doing to expand our tax remittance. As of today, Hospitable remits state our local level tax in 45 out of the 50 states. In Louisiana, Missouri, and New Hampshire, we're waiting for approval from the state, and then we'll be able to remit some of our out taxes on your behalf. In 22 states, we remit the exact same taxes and we are 100% aligned with Vrbo, which means the integration will result in no changes in how the taxes are handled. In some states, we will be remitting even more taxes than Vrbo currently manages. In other states, we are generally remitting a large amount of tax due on your behalf, but the portion we're often missing is the local taxes that are filed and remitted directly to the local jurisdictions, such as the country or city. In these cases, this requires a separate registration process with the local jurisdiction. Our team is working to expand tax remittance as fast as possible to not only align with Vrbo, but expand for as many users as possible in these jurisdictions. So, how are we doing that? We have taken into account our users and for Vrbo and direct premium. So we're looking into the booking volume in all of them, and we're deciding where to tackle next. So we are including Vrbo into our road mapping so that we can take action and provide tax remittance to most of you who we don't handle yet as fast as possible. So let's talk about now where we are in terms of our timeline. Next slide, please, Gabby. Okay, so in terms of the integration timeline, last year we spent 6 months working on all the certification process that Vrbo has for us to become an official partner, which includes all the implementation of everything that they have there for us to be able to support an official integration. Then we started a pilot, and I know a lot of you wanted to be part of this pilot, but we are really limited on 50 properties for this pilot. It's Vrbo's requirement, and we already onboarded everyone. So this is some update from where we are compared to the last town hall, is that we're finally in this monitoring stage, which should take from 2 to 4 weeks. And then Vrbo is going to give us a green light to start onboarding you as hosts. And we're hoping to start onboarding you at the end of March. So some of you had questions about how about if I'm not in the US, and how are you going to do this because you don't do tax remittance for outside of the US? So how is that going to work? Well, we're going to have Stripe also available for you, and we're planning to have it available in April. So that is the last milestone in our timeline. And since we were talking just now about one-click upsells, let me invite Abby to stage to give you exciting updates on the guest portal.
Thank you, Marina. So I am going to talk about a feature that is not necessarily new, but you may not know that it exists, or you may not be getting the full benefit of it yet. And so I wanted to share some updates on that. And that is trip insurance. So trip insurance is available now to all US properties that have access to upsells. And it is offered automatically to guests in the guest portal. And it's offered by Rental Guardian, which means that it's great my camera is not on. I'm so sorry. You couldn't see me. Here I am, which means that it is available to all of your guests through Rental Guardian. Rental Guardian handles the trip insurance claim and support, so it's completely hands-off for you. And it's a really nice option because your guests get some additional protection. Up to the day before check-in, they can purchase trip insurance, which covers them for trip cancellations, trip interruptions. It even offers medical and dental emergency coverage as well. Um, and the best part about it is for you, you earn commission on every policy sold. So it's a really easy way for you to make some incremental revenue. And we launched trip insurance. We made it generally available back in early January. And I wanted to just share some numbers on the success that we've seen with trip insurance so far. So since it became generally available in early January, our hosts that are selling trip insurance to their guests are making on average $25 per booking. Although that number can be a lot higher. It depends on the commission that you make, depends on the value of the trip insurance, which depends on the value of the booking. So if you have really high dollar value bookings, then you could make a lot on commission. In fact, one host made $647.12 on a single sale of trip insurance. That's been our largest commission to date, and that uh, paid for their Hospitable subscription for several months. And for our top performing host, they have made $770.06 so far in selling trip insurance to their guests. And since we launched in early January, 261 hosts have sold trip insurance to at least one guest and made some amount in trip insurance commission. And we actually think that that number should be a lot higher. And so we really want to help you take advantage of selling trip insurance to your guests if you are not doing so already. So how do you do that? Well, it's very easy because the trip insurance upsell has already automatically been enabled for you. It's already there. But what you do need to do is let your guests know that trip insurance is available to them and get them into the guest portal so that they can actually view their policy options and purchase trip insurance. So the hosts that have had the most success in selling trip insurance to their guests are including the guest portal short code in their new reservation messaging rule. And they're also adding a note about trip insurance and recommending that the guests purchase trip insurance for additional protection. Another pro tip that we've seen from our hosts that have been the most successful at selling trip insurance to their guests is that they are using rental agreements. If you are having your guests sign a rental agreement, then each of your guests are going to come into the guest portal. They're going to review their rental agreement, which probably has some information about your house rules or cancellation policy. And then after they sign that rental agreement, we'll automatically present them with the option to purchase trip insurance. And so that's where we are seeing the most guests converting is if they've signed a rental agreement, they automatically have the option to buy trip insurance. And so if you're not using rental agreements yet, that might be an opportunity to start. Or if anything, we definitely recommend that you add a note into your new reservation messaging rule so that you're letting guests know that this is available in the guest portal and you're getting them in there to buy it. So hopefully I've sufficiently convinced you that this is a really easy way to make some incremental revenue. And so you can go get your guests into the guest portal by adding the guest portal shortcode to your messaging rules today. But if you want a little more information on what this looks like, how this is set up, how your guests will interact with trip insurance, you can scan the QR code to get a walkthrough of how it works. And that's it for me. I'm handing it over to Emily to talk about the PM Marketplace.
Sweet. Thank you, Abby. Alrighty. Since announcing our property management marketplace program at the beginning of the year, our inboxes and our calendars have been flooded with the same question. How can I get on the list? So I'm really glad that you guys are so excited about this. So today I wanted to give a little peek behind the curtain because we're doing things a little bit differently. And frankly, there is no list. This is not something that you can apply for. And at the risk of sounding like dating advice, the analogy is actually pretty strong. The goal should be less about how you present and sell yourself and more about becoming the type of property manager that you would want for your own property. So here's how we're identifying great potential property managers for owners who come to us looking for some help. So you can kind of think about it like this. If you were an owner exploring your options, would you hire yourself? Are you leveraging all channels, not just Airbnb? When we're speaking with owners, they're looking for a property manager that's not reliant on a single channel, that doesn't have all their eggs in one basket. They're looking for someone who can cast a wide net to increase the potential to draw in great guests. Are you optimizing your revenue? And I don't just mean are you staying booked, but are you truly optimizing to ensure you're actually getting the most out of the nights that are booked? So are you taking advantage of not just dynamic pricing, but upsells, security deposits, trip insurance, like Abby just mentioned, to make your owners more money beyond the reservation payment itself? Is there proof that your guests are really happy? Are you getting consistent 5-star reviews or close to it? And how are you doing against your peers in the market? Are you a high performer? Can the owner net more after they pay your commission than they could self-managing? These are all the things that owners care about. It's so much less about your image or your experience and more about proof of your performance. So to sum it all up, your performance really does matter more than the fact that you've already managed for 25 owners or you're managing in these 5 markets. So if you're absolutely crushing it with your own properties and you're performing high in your market and delivering great results for your guests, you could be the perfect fit for the right owner, even if you've never managed for another owner before. So we will be bringing you the opportunities and the owner management tools that you need to give that owner a great experience, whether it's your first owner or your 51st owner. So we're going to be talking more and more about this in upcoming town halls, but we just wanted to give you a little bit of a glimpse so you can start preparing and start leveraging the tools that you need to increase the likelihood that you're going to be recommended to owners who come to us looking for some help. So Andrew's going to pick it up from here with some updates on dynamic pricing in the meantime.
Cool. Thank you, Emily. 2 quick announcements for me to close out our product updates for today. First, from dynamic pricing, just a quick reminder, if you are an existing user of Hospitable Dynamic Pricing and you have not had a look at your pricing in a while, open up your property calendars and see if we're asking you to update to our new pricing model. This is also a great opportunity, please, to review any advanced settings you've had configured. The new model will behave a little bit differently with those settings, and in general, it should reduce the need to rely on the advanced settings entirely. But this is a good chance to have a check-in with your pricing. We want you to be able to update on your own schedule, but we are going to close that off at the end of this month, and everyone will be updated that hasn't already taken the opportunity to do so. If you are not currently using Hospitable's dynamic pricing on any of your properties, you can go preview your pricing now to see how the new model looks for your property. Now, let's switch to operations. And I'm going to be very brief today because our next town hall is where we will be unveiling all of the details about our new operations portal that is being built to enable you to pay your own team. This new portal, this new app, is designed for your teammates. So they are going to be able to see and manage their task schedule, even across multiple Hospitable accounts. You are going to see real-time status updates from your team when they're on the way, when they've arrived on site, when they're starting the job, when they've completed the job, all synced to your inbox and other parts of the product. They are going to be able to check off task items and upload photos and video with updates visible instantly in your app. But we are kicking off the pilot for this tomorrow. It's going to be a very busy day for some of us. My calendar is very full at this point. If you want to sign up for the pilot, you are not going to get early access. We're pretty much already full, but you may be able to book time with the team for a white glove, one-on-one assisted onboarding to this new feature. So if you're highly aligned with where this is going or where it sounds like it's going, and you want this, go ahead and scan the QR code. We're going to ask you a short survey just to make sure that you're a good fit for this, and we'll reach out and hopefully you can get scheduled and talk to our team and give us your feedback. And with that, I will pass to Miles to talk about some of the upcoming events.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Andrew. Hopefully my video is now working. I know it wasn't earlier, so I might do a quick off and on to see if it fixes it. But if not, we'll just have to carry on without. So yeah, just quick update from me on some events that we have upcoming. So first off, we have a couple of host and toast events coming up. So these are opportunities to come and kind of network with hosts in your local area and also a couple of members of the Hospitable team. So first up, we have an event on February 26th in Charlotte, North Carolina. So if you're anywhere near that area, check out the event and scan the QR code and join us for some food and drink and networking with other short-term rental hosts in your area. And then moving on to the next slide, we also have an event upcoming in Melbourne, Australia. That's in line with actually the Strive conference that's happening March 11th to March 12th. So again, if you're interested, if you're in that part of Australia, likely watching the recording of this town hall, then please go ahead, scan the QR code and get registered for that event. And then a couple more online events. So we are continuing our series of events around US taxes, and we've had one of those webinars already. If you'd like to watch that back, you can go ahead and scan the top QR code. And if you're interested in joining our STR Taxes 101 session with Brandon, our accountant in residence, you can scan the link at the bottom as well to register for that event happening on February 24th. That's next Tuesday. And then finally, Andrew already called out the topic for our next town hall, focusing on operations. And if you don't want to miss that town hall or any other town hall in future, if you scan this QR code, you can add all of our events to your calendar and you can make sure that you don't miss them. And I can see Petra's pinging those links in the chat as well to help out. So if you miss any of those, look to the chat to click on those links as well. But without further ado, I'm going to hand over to PC again to talk about. Oh no, I'm not.
No,
I'm
going
sorry.
straight up to the Q&A for this one. For this one time, people have been sick of hearing my
Apologies.
voice, so we can
Thank you
go
very much.
straight to Q&A. Miles.
Awesome. Okay. So yes, as always, if you do have any questions for us, go down to the React button and raise your hand. That lets us know that you're interested in asking a question, and I will bring you on stage. And obviously then we ask you to then unmute. So first off, we have Thomas waiting with your hand raised. Thomas, would you like to come on stage and ask a question?
Yes, so I have two things. One is the Vrbo integration. I can see the benefits of some of the things you're doing there. I would prefer to stay on the current type of integration, mostly around your tax settings. If I know which taxes Vrbo remits for me right now and which ones you would, because I know which ones you remit on direct. And in addition to it being more expensive, I would have so much more work with tax remittance. I'd rather not. So if there is an option to stay on the whatever downgraded version of the Vrbo integration, I'd prefer that. Just a little bit as a feedback. And then the other thing is the guest portal. I mean, I see all these awesome improvements and new features we're getting and everything, but the guest portal, we have little to no control over it, what it looks like, what features are on it. And I know there are a bunch of things that are on the backlog or in progress. I think what's been raised multiple times is like a chat function with guests that ties into the inbox. And I think that's actually coming, if I'm correct or not. But just generally speaking, upsells and all that is great. But where this all needs to happen is in the guest portal, and yet we have zero control over it. So this is just a little bit of feedback, is where I would say I'd rather slow down on some of these other features and get that, which is my number one, or should be my number one point of contact with the guest, should be that portal. And that should be, in my opinion, the highest priority.
Yes. The things that make it so easy for me to be doing my job is that for every 1,000 people that have an opinion about what we should be doing, there is 1,000 people that have probably the dramatically different view of what it should be. And that basically means every time we're going out on the town hall, we basically expose with a certain sense of vulnerability on basically what we should be doing. Let me be clear, the guest portal is basically still a very important property. We have done plenty of work within the last part of the year, within the last quarter, to basically give it a glow up, give it more features. There is a very busy roadmap that we have for the guest portal. The kind of arbitrage that we're having right now is also kind of making more sense of the features that we have been building in those past few months so that they can be used by more hosts. Right now, we believe the biggest blocker to the guest portal having an impact on guests is actually the adoption by the hosts themselves, which so far is still not enough to basically make it sense. So the effort that we're doing on navigation is basically to get us to a point where we're able to have enough of a critical mass of users of the guest portal that are sharing the links, that are advertising it, where we really would be like, come on, now that's the time. We can do the guidebooks, we can have the chat, we can have all those very popular requests to address the guest portal. And that is, we are absolutely aligned on this. The challenge is really around the prioritization of those features. So definitely, we're not going to be making everyone happy on this. The second part that you shared on Vrbo, I think we have Brandon somewhere on the panel, which is with our accountant in residence. We is working with local jurisdictions to get registered. It is a surprise to me, a European, but the biggest problem that we actually are facing in the tax registration is that there is a lot of pushback against us collecting applicable taxes. Collecting lodging taxes in particular with those low-level jurisdictions. They believe that we're a property management company. They don't want to get us on a marketplace or payment facilitator track, and we really have to go and pitch, even go to hearings to actually be presenting our case to be registered as a lodging tax. The Vrbo integration and the ability to be collecting payments on Vrbo give us a bit more of a brown power, is that the person on the other side knows who Vrbo is because they are probably already collecting taxes and remitting taxes in their jurisdictions, which means we now are able to say, you know what, we actually are a payment facilitator for Vrbo reservations, so please go and facilitate that work for us. We know that there are conversations that are basically held in suspense because we are not yet a merchant of record, and we have a much greater confidence about being registered to more jurisdictions, including and especially the local ones, once we are processing payments for Vrbo, because it represents a significantly greater amount to collect and remit. Now, the path on the existing integration, on the existing connections, we have not made a clear-cut decision, but we are moving towards a property management software company that is able to be the source of truth for the listing management, the calendar, and all the different parts of our product. And that's where we're going to be putting our resources. That is really where we believe there is a path. The tax compliance is going to be sorted as we are going to be ramping up our operations on Vrbo. The fundamental value that you're going to have out of Hospitable is not a clunky product that basically bypasses the restrictions from booking platforms. It's actually a tool that helps you be more productive and more performant on the booking platforms. And we want to do that at the best price points possible that is sustainable. I've seen comments on the chat, and I think you were raising that as well. The 3.9% represent basically the equivalent of what you'll be charged as a payment processor if you were processing a payment American Express card, with very little difference actually, but we will be packing this with more service. So you have the tax compliance, you have the chargeback. Every Vrbo host knows the process for chargebacks on Vrbo, and know it's not exactly the most host-friendly process in the first place. We are covering that. We have experience on covering that. We've covered $60 million of direct bookings over in 2025. Now, definitely, I'm not claiming that we're going to be perfect. That's why we want to roll those out over a certain period of time, but with a certain sense of urgency. We will only be stronger. It's difficult to say we will only be stronger on the path. No, that's not true. But we really have a lot of confidence that this is the best way to make the current constraints of third-party integration to make it work within our users who we know and talk to every day. This provides a level of simplification over the current alternative that we believe is absolutely unparalleled at a price point that basically makes sure that Hospitable is breaking even. That's also something else. We are really aiming for not losing millions on the Vrbo integration. The price point that we have is covering the cost. It is also, as we've shared on the previous panel, a very temporary thing, in that Vrbo wants to reclaim their merchant of record, wants to retain the payment processing, and wants to retain their accounts. We're just here to be bridging the gap and making sure that you have a way that's as close as possible to the OT experience without having all the liabilities that come with becoming a professional host integrated with the property management software. And then, of course, when it comes to cost, you can pass it on to the guest, you adjust your markups so that there is basically no impact on your payout, or you can basically decide what you're going to do. But thank you for bringing those up. The guest portal, we really, really, really want to be bringing more attention to it. I cannot agree more. And the Vrbo feedback tax compliance is going to be unblocked and accelerated because we are processing payments for Vrbo. Thank you, Thomas, for this question. I hope I got a few people answered, a few questions answered too.
Yeah, thank you very much, Thomas. Okay, we have time for a couple of questions. Will, inviting you on stage. Hello, Will.
Hello, Will. How can we help you?
Hi, yes, I just have a quick question. So I am a co-host for multiple owners. However, some of the owners, they have their own PMS, the other major ones as well. So I'm using Hospitable to manage two of the very important listings of his. Unfortunately, I won't be able to adjust the price, and I mean it's restricted since Airbnb only allow one PMS, right? So I explored the options. I somehow guest told me that they are the only PMS can work with different PMS they worked with Airbnb directly. Somehow they solved the issue. So I want to check if that's real, and if it's real, if you guys are gonna do something similar.
The things we hear from salespeople are a bit crazy and of a wide spectrum. I don't know what it means to be working across multiple PMS when you are yourself a property management software. Those restrictions are imposed by the booking platform themselves because they need one source of truth. And so what it means is that whenever a guest is booking, they actually have to check the property management software's infrastructure to check if the dates, for example, are available. So I think this claim is probably may have been issued by someone who is on commission somewhere.
Right.
I don't know what that means. Andrew?
I mean, what it's referring to, we have that capability in a limited way, right? We have the ability to connect an unlimited connection to Airbnb and manage some things, not, as Pierre mentioned, availability. It depends on what you want to do, Will, but yeah, there's no good solution out there that we're aware of on the market to work with more than one PMS in a way to manage pricing. That's a pretty critical core thing that can only be managed by one system.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Thank you, Will, for this question. Next.
Thank you very much.
We can have a few more questions. Next, we can have Emily.
Hello, Emily, inviting you on stage.
Hi,
Hello,
can you hear me?
Emily. How can we help you?
Hi. Okay, so I've been trying to drive more people to my direct booking website since the Airbnb fee increase. And about 2 months ago, I had a guest stay for a few months. They booked direct through the platform. Didn't mention anything about a pet, have no camera footage of a pet. They trashed the house, room, couch, curtains, the whole nine. And Truby isn't covering any of it and saying that it's all pet related damage. So I've been going back and forth with them for months, and they're basically just taking their word against mine. So my question is have we looked at any other insurance options for direct? And is there anything that we can do for hosts in this position in the future when insurance doesn't cover any damage that is deemed pet related when it isn't?
Yep. So yeah, we can definitely look into that. I don't know if that's how high that's been escalated, Emily, but I think Abby, who's on my team and managing direct, can investigate and make sure that it's not something that we can't help push just a little bit harder.
Okay.
It's been a frustrating relationship with Truby. They're kind of on notice at the moment, and we are exploring what our other options are. It's going to take us a little bit of time to get there, but we think we can do a much better job. We want to own the results of the insurance decision, not outsource it to a third party. I think we're frustrated by that. And yeah, I'm sorry to hear that you've had a bad experience too. It's one of several. So yeah, you'll be hearing more from us, hopefully, not too much longer, about a better solution for direct booking and maybe for other channels as well.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, last question with Bobby.
Yeah. Hello, Bobby. Invite you on stage.
Hello,
Hey guys,
Bobby.
can you hear me okay?
Perfect. How can we help you today?
All right, awesome. Hey, so I've got an AI question for you guys. So more of a recommendation for one, and then the second part question. Recommendation wise, and this might be user error, so if you guys already have this, let me know. But it seems that AI, you're training the AI within Hospitable on the property level about the specific property. So if you get a question, of course, it's responding to that specific property. But I'm wondering if there's a way to, I guess there are two parts to this. Update the AI to, as a whole. Let's say you have 20 properties and you have a, rule in place where you don't allow maybe late checkouts. Is there a way to, train the AI for all of your properties at once? Hey, if somebody asks for a late checkout, this is the response we want, or this is our specific policy. So that's part one. And then part two is just kind of the general, like where do you guys see, what are you working on with AI right now? I feel like I haven't heard a whole heck of a lot about it on the town halls lately. But just curious kind of where you guys see that going in the near future.
Yeah. I want to call Nick because I know he's on the panel. Yes, perfect.
Hi, Bobby. On the first point about just having like a blanket rule across multiple properties, we hear you. As with many things at Hospitable, we do a lot of things and we kind of prioritize some rather than others. This has been on our minds for quite a while, and we had kind of one almost attempt at doing a multi-property knowledge hub that we didn't follow through with. This is something that we want to do sooner rather than later. Just have at least the ability for you to say like, okay, for across my knowledge hub for all properties, make this change. Like that's the lowest hanging fruit to enable you to make these like bulk edits. I think that's on our minds. We want to do that soon. The second part is maybe a longer answer. I'll try to share kind of our near term and long term plans here. One is on auto reply. We've actually just today rolled out one of our bigger updates to date. For a lot of you, you won't actually notice much difference. For some of you, you will. And it's been a journey of kind of tweaking and finding a balance between allowing the AI to work unassisted, but also doing so in a safe manner so that like it doesn't share information that it doesn't need to share. It doesn't promise things that it shouldn't be promising, because that just makes it more work for you. It makes it embarrassing for everyone involved. So it's been a journey. And yeah, we rolled out a big update earlier today. Along with that came one nice upgrade, which is now both auto reply and suggest with AI are able to do on the spot lookups for local information. So whether that's restaurants or suggestions, events, and so on, if the AI kind of detects that this is something that would benefit the conversation, auto reply in particular is now well positioned to actually offer that to the guests. Whereas before, if you didn't have that in the Knowledge Hub, it might offer something that it has been trained on in the past, and coincidentally it might work, but also there were cases where it might make stuff up or offer things that are closed. So that's one upgrade that happened just recently, just today. And that's also just a shout out to everyone listening who is using auto reply. Please let us know how auto reply works for you after this update. We spent quite a bit of time on tuning it. Looking ahead, we do have plans and ideas for where to take this next. One of the things that we're kind of exploring is having a more proactive AI in the inbox, giving you kind of one-click actions based on what some detected intent is. Like, for example, if a guest is asking about an alteration, AI can automatically look at your calendar and kind of see that, okay, this might be possible, and just offer it to you in the UI in a one-click kind of capacity, so that there's less for you to do. Like those things, kind of an agentic, if you want to call it, kind of flow in the inbox. That's one thing that we're looking ahead to doing. Beyond the inbox, one of the things you recently saw was AI in listings management and listing creation. We're leaning more and more heavily into that. There are some very fun and exciting things we want to do there. I don't want to tease and promise something that I cannot deliver or we cannot deliver kind of in the coming months. So stay tuned. But there are some pretty cool things kind of on the horizon if we can make that work. Let's see what else. Yeah, right now, kind of our focus, I think, as we've shared earlier this year, is really about quality rather than kind of breadth of features. That was kind of our modus operandum last year, where we kind of released a lot of things, and you could see a very hectic pace of basically every 2 weeks something pretty new and exciting was being announced. We're not necessarily slowing down tremendously, but we are trying to be a bit more thoughtful and mindful about what it is we're releasing, because like our customer base has grown, and we need to be a little bit more attentive with changes that might impact now an order of magnitude more customers than a few years before. So it's not really an answer maybe that you were hoping for. There are things that we're working on. AI in the inbox is for sure not done. There is more to come. But yeah, I don't have a particular timeline to share beyond soon.
No, I appreciate that. And I know that was a really loaded question. So appreciate you taking the time to roll through that, Nick. Yeah, just more like, training of the AI itself, I think would be awesome. We love it. It gives us the ability. Of course, we monitor the messages. We set a 5-minute delay, but
Yeah, so Bobby,
good.
you reminded me. It's like one thing that's actually has been started. We needed to take a pause on it, but probably we'll come back to it soon. Is on the one hand, training tone of voice better, so giving you more control in like how the messages are structured to sound more like you. We have something in it works there, and also on top of that, opening up the ability for you to define your own kind of guidelines and restrictions for what the AI should and shouldn't talk about. We have that in progress as well. No ETA, but like that's also soon.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm talking about there. So
yeah.
Cool. All right, guys, appreciate it.
Thanks, Bobby.
Thank you, Bobby. I think now we're at time, so thank you very much on the team for staying longer, just as much as every customer that's still connected. I just have a little bit of an update because I didn't realize that was impacting the moment when I talked. But this is Lilith, who is basically the cat of my sister, who unfortunately was locked out and basically ended up screaming a little bit. So she's getting all the hugs now. Yeah, that's fact. I'm basically with my family right now for a little bit of time, and obviously the cat wants to colonize the keyboard, which obviously she does really well. Actually, she did that really well all day long. Things you've heard from us that you probably should remember if you want to know what it is that we've been talking about. And Nick is basically closing the arc really well here. We have learned a rather painful lesson. We want to basically focus a little bit more on quality. We realize the scale of our product right now, the breadth, depth, and the impact whenever something goes wrong. And so we're really trying to adjust the culture a little bit more from shipping fast and fix quickly to something that's a bit more mindful before there is even a release. So there's a bit of a stage on the maturity of the company where we want to pay a little bit more attention to details before the first release. And I think that's basically a win for everybody, frankly, after the very fast pace that we went through last year. The second part is that there will be a new navigation that will be available very, very soon. And we plan on releasing that actually earlier this week. We decided not to. We decided to take steps so that you could give the feedback without forcing it upon you. And that, I think, is also righteous, evidencing the first point. Vrbo is still aggressively being worked on. We're partnering with the Vrbo team to find what's the next step in terms of a release that's going to be successful for Hospitable users and Vrbo as well. So you keep on hearing from us about Vrbo. I think there are definitely plenty of very exciting work ahead when it comes, for example, with tax compliance that I was referring to a bit earlier, which we really understand is the way we can offer an attractive position as a merchant of record product. I think there were also plenty of messages in the chat about Booking.com. There may be an opportunity there to consolidate the flow of funds. And their PM Marketplace, which is a fantastic initiative led by the Moogle team and Emily that you've heard, where we would love to be making introductions between owners and property managers. That does mean co-hosts too. I was saying that in the chat. So that basically we can assist owners on the performance of their listings, even those that do not want to self-manage. So that's basically what you heard from us today. In 2 weeks, we'll tell a different story. We'll be having a deeper dive on a new part of the product, rather renewed part of the product, which is operations. We have very exciting updates around operations. And yeah, I'm really impatient of showing that to you. I hope that's going to be a far more positive town hall then. Thank you so very much. Have a great rest